Hi, and welcome to Ghosted, Gagged, and Gay, the podcast where queer love stories get unfiltered, unpacked, and maybe even a little unraveled. I'm your host, Lene, queer relationship coach and rapid transformational therapy practitioner. If you've ever found yourself stuck in a loop of dating deja vu, it's probably not bad luck, it's your subconscious on autopilot. Through my Radiant Hearts transformation program, I help LGBTQ plus individuals rewrite the stories, keeping them stuck and step into the kind of love that actually fits. Want to know more? You know where to find me. But for now, grab your tea, your wine, or anything else, including your feelings. And because we're diving into a story that's as real as it gets. Today's guest is someone whose story is rooted in transformation, courage, and a powerful journey toward self-acceptance. Katia Padilha, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, um, was born and raised in Brazil and spent a decade working for a Christian NGO dedicated to service and community. But behind that life of service was a personal truth she felt pressured to hide. In 2015, she moved to the UK, and several years later, love and freedom found her. Now a business operations manager and happily engaged, Katia is here to share what happens when religion stands in the way of authenticity and how she finally chose herself. Welcome, Katia.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lonnie. Such a good pleasure to be here. It's my first podcast, so it's going to be a very exciting experience.
And I'm also excited to be here. Thank you very much. So, Katia, yeah, let's start with the moment you made that promise to live fully and authentically. What shifted for you at, like you mentioned, around the age of 30 that made you say, no more hiding?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I will have to go a little bit behind, a little bit earlier than my 30s to explain the background. I come from a Christian background, as you said, and when I turned 19 years old, I started working with this NGO. It's a non-profit organization, like a charity. And they had so much like different social projects. They really got my attention back then. Even though they were not a church, but they lived and worked under the Christian principles. So I thought it was really like fantastic to proclaim a faith that does so much for others. So I was really proud, to be honest, and I felt I was making difference. I was very involved in so many different things, and I loved every single project I worked for. And for that, I ended up staying with them for 10 years.
Mm,
Um, when I kind of turned 29 years old, so almost like 10 years later, very close to the time I was going to leave, I did one of their internal Bible courses. It was a very intense 9 months course. And it's called like an inductive course. So pretty much like theology. When you study theology, it's not supposed to be a pastor saying, this is my view. You should, you basically have all the resources. So you go on internet, you have read books, you have to, understand the cultural aspect of the time and all of the things. So this inductive course, it was a way for me to take my own conclusions from every book of the Bible. So, you study and then they would like, okay, what did you find out? What do you think they are saying here? What they mean here?
mhm.
And by that, my thoughts start to change quite a lot because I start to find out um, that things I believed before, it was taught me in a different way. No, I completely like saw a different side that was never taught before. I was like, and I started questioning a lot. Now, I have questioned about my sexuality several times from my entire, teenager into my late 20s. But with Christianity, we all know that it's a bit hard to kind of talk about the subject because we all know the view. It's it's not right. It's a sin. You're gonna go to hell. Um,
True.
so in like my 20s, throughout my life before coming out, I went to psychologists, I had therapy, I went to seminars about sexuality. I had like Christian people trying to help me, be my spiritual mentors. Uh, nothing changed, nothing happened in that sense. The only thing that I tried to do is to silence myself over and over again, to not commit the sin. So now back into the Bible school. The school actually freed me from the ignorance on how people make interpretations about the Bible. And that's when I started to really think, well, God's not gonna stop loving me because I want to be with someone in the same gender than me. That the things didn't make sense anymore. So that was the time in my really late 20s where I started to question. In the interesting part of this, that it was the course that they offered me that actually changed my thoughts a lot. And I
Okay.
understood it was my time to pack everything, leave. And just after that, it was when I had a few months to rethink about my views, digest, and coming up with a plan, like how I'm going to behave from now on, like what I'm going to tell people, how I'm going to do things. So it was a big switch, like in my late 20s.
Okay, and like through that process, you started like kind of feeling this or like realizing this pressure to like hide yourself.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, because I felt like so with the course basically freed me from the view that actually you can be yourself. So behind before the course is basically what people told me, so what people tell you. And Christian environment is very often that you have to find, you have to fit these statements to kind of be accepted in the community and by God.
Yeah, exactly. So basically like um the main problem is like how religion, like whether it's Christianity or any other religion, is interpreted, right? Like usually when a lot of people like I met in the past that they they have really like explored different aspects of religion and they really like did their research. Sounds
Yeah,
similar um to like what your experience with this course. And when like they find out, like a lot of people find out, it's actually the interpretation from people and from institutions that make it that like, queer people are unaccepted and so on. Do you agree with that, or is there like a different like perspective that you would like to share?
I agree. I even think like there are people inside of Christianity who is totally okay with that. So I'm not here to say, hey guys, this is all bad people. It's nothing about it. But religions tend to make it their own interpretation about what's about life, what's after life, how you should. It's conditional. And it comes to the human being interpretation. And a human being has a very limited like brain. We go into a certain point, and then after that, there is no, we can't explain. Who can explain after, we die? We have different experiences, but proof, like we cannot prove. So yes, it does come from the interpretation mainly.
Yeah, exactly. So, wow, that is quite the experience that you have, and I'm glad that you're here today. And like it was like part of your journey to like really find out the truth about how you believe and about yourself. I mean, everybody goes through their own journey, and but it's really amazing because a lot of people, especially like in religious communities, it's really hard. Like I'm talking about queer people. It's for a lot of queer people, it's very hard to manage to get to the point where they have the courage to actually step out or just like take religion from like their own perspective or like embrace a part of or like embrace the version of religion that actually accepts everyone and
Yeah,
making this move towards like accepting themselves. So that's very brave of you.
thank
I mean, the whole community should be super proud,
you.
basically. So. Katia, you spent like 10 years in a faith-based environment. What
Mhm.
messages did you internalize about identity, especially about being queer?
Yeah, I mean, like I always thought it's really really beautiful to see people who are themselves, right? And I always had that thought, someone who is brave enough to wear different clothes or being loud in a group. And then there's a lot of people who actually fight because others say you don't fit in this room. There is society expectation. And I always thought it was really beautiful for people who, being themselves in any way, any sort of way. But these kind of people do pay a price, like of not fitting the environment a lot of the times. And the end of the day, we all, in some way, we do kind of do care about what people say about us, right?
Yeah.
So in if we look at the Christianity, where I take my experience from, majority of the believers, they are expected to behave in some sort of way. And this way, we just mentioned just now, is kind of dictated by church leaders according to their views. So for me, what I learned, and unfortunately I internalized for a long time, is that me being queer wasn't part of my personality, it wasn't part of who I am. So some people used to say to me, that could be demons, which is a bit like hilarious.
Wow.
Other people say that is something that your flesh wants, is desires that we all go through in life. And
Mhm.
this is a test to see if you can resist this kind of things. So this is the type of things that you start to internalize, and then you started to resist because you're like, oh, I'm the one to show up as a weak person. But I think the main message that I internalize is that they often say, that you're gonna hurt God's heart, right, for being gay. And I used to say, and I don't know why I got to that point. I was so tied up in religion that I used to say, well, if I'm hurting God's heart, I might be single forever. I just like not think about it. Maybe this is the best choice for me. And I didn't look at anyone. I didn't allow to emotionally connect with anyone for actually over years, just because, well, this is going to hurt God. And so I think that was for me very strong. It sounds a bit silly to think, well, you just didn't want to hurt God, but yeah, it's how you get involved. If you're loyal to a faith, if you're loyal to a religious, if you're loyal to a community, sometimes even being loyal to our friends, we just act in some ways and we internalize that. And it was really harsh on me for a long time. And these messages all kind of mold you for a little bit.
It's very like it's very shocking the way they were like I would say a bit of manipulation there was there, like especially with the test, like, oh, this is a test and you
Yeah,
need to succeed with this test. Um, that's very tough, like to go through. And yeah, like it doesn't sound silly because if you're like this faithful, like to that level and very committed to your faith, it's kind of like if somebody comes to you and tells you like, oh, if you do this, you're gonna hurt your
right.
parents or something like
Yeah.
that, or one of your family members.
Mhm.
And people look up to God, and Jesus as like their like idol, right? So you don't want to hurt your idol.
Yeah.
Um so
And
yeah,
there is
and
so in so many other religions as well. I'm talking about Christianity because it's my experience, but I know from friends, um, how many other people encountered themselves with their faith, and they would rather, I would never tell. Maybe I'll wait for my parents to die into I will be myself. Or maybe people would just like, you know what, I would just do this part hiding from everyone else, that's all good. So it's sad enough, it's very normal.
yeah, it is very sad, which also like in a way like it goes in the complete opposite direction of what the like here for example the Christian beliefs are, or most of the religion beliefs or values that like you need to be honest with yourself and be true to
Right.
yourself. And in this way, you're completely lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and also like the people who get involved, like for example, a lot of closeted queer people, then because of this pressure, then they end up in like emotionless, like heterosexual relationships.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
it's not only hurting them, but it's also hurting the other people who are involved, like in such
Yeah.
relationships.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah.
What like how did it feel after that many years? Like how did it feel when you started like reclaiming your story after so many years of trying to avoid and silence it?
Um, well, now it's been almost 9 years I'm out, so it's very easy to talk about the past. Um, but at the beginning it was hard. It was as anything new in your life when you change, even changing careers, anything new that comes to your life is strange, it's weird, but it felt right. So it was weird, but it felt right.
Mm.
And I remember feeling in so much peace with my decision. And at times at the beginning I would think, oh, but maybe I don't like anyone. Maybe I will even marry a guy. But then I would put myself in my own thoughts and like, well, it's okay. But like just the way that you're dealing with your feelings now, that you're free to understand that you are able to love a woman and a man and a trans person. There is no, like the judgment is just like you're not carrying anymore that heavy backpack, of like judgment. And so yeah, but the beginning was weird. But when sometimes I think about like how I was trying to be before, and I even look at pictures when I was trying to be a very femme and trying to be hot, because society says that every woman has to paint in their nails, is the hair, you have to use the skirts, you have to use a dress. And I was never into a dress. I'm not against dress at all. I think it's beautiful, but I never felt comfortable with a dress. And it took me a long time to kind of like finding my own style. And finding my own style also is related to because I didn't know much of my identity. And it's so, you get pictures of me now. Well, now I'm like almost turning 40 next year. So I already have wrinkles and everything. But I feel so confident and happy with who I am right now that I look at pictures like, oh my God, you're younger. You had so much more potential, but you had no identity. It wasn't like, and then you look at the pictures like, oh my God, what was this hair? What was this clothes, trying to fit. And now in my almost like late 30s, and I feel really happy about being myself. And obviously now, like for me, just being here with you, sharing my experience again, I hope to encourage people to, if it's possible, if it's safe to do so, to come out of the, closet, because there is no feeling that can, actually explain how good it is to be feeling yourself, feeling happy, you know?
That's amazing. Yeah, like I'm sure your message will inspire a lot of people, your story will inspire a lot of people. And that's why like I'm very happy that you're here because it's a topic that is very sensitive and people like not a lot of people talk about it. I feel especially in like certain parts of the world, like it's completely ignored, and like a lot of people in certain parts of the world, they don't even have um, like anybody to tell them like, hey, this is not okay to hide yourself and hide who you are and kind of just like a copy an identity that is not yours
Yeah.
just to fit in.
Yeah. And there is like, as a lesbian, I feel more women than ever now, that I'm not in the, stereotype of heterosexual, for example. I feel more that women than ever. And there is another layer to that, which we, are just gonna mention here, but we can move on. When you feel good about yourself, then people start to come to you and say, hey, I never had the courage to say, but I'm glad you did because I feel like I can come and talk to you. So what happened? is that the consequences of me coming out in a very big network of Christians I had is that I got the people who also was in the same situation than me, and they're like, I need to talk to you now because you understand. And so when you're a little bit, I step ahead, I was like, okay, now it feels really good. Please look at my experience, come with me. So you become a reference, either wanting to be a reference. So when you get about yourself, you know who you are, you're just kind of even ready to help others as well. And that's a very good place in life to be.
Wow. I'm really happy that, yeah, those people were also inspired by you. And it always like it's whatever we do, it's usually a bit contagious, like to the people around us. So sometimes we think like, oh, we don't matter, like, then that would sometimes like, especially if you're suppressed for so long, then you have this feeling like, oh, maybe I don't matter what I do or what I don't do. But it does, like, first of all to yourself, and then second of all to the people around you, because you don't know who you might help by just being who you are.
Yes, yes, I agree.
And and yeah, like the whole feeling of being like the feeling weird at first, like to find your ident until like you found your identity and your style and everything. This is normal because the mind always goes to what is familiar and tries to stay away from what is unfamiliar. It's kind of like a survival mechanism. And for you in that case, what is familiar was actually not having an identity. And when you started finding
Yeah,
your voice and your story, then it was unfamiliar and your mind was like on alert.
yeah.
Um, so
I
what
think it's
is,
just good to mention, so just so you go ahead, I think it's good to mention that I wasn't a sad person when I was in Christianity, and I wanted to make sure I say that because it's not like, oh, okay, now you don't think, in the church anymore, or blah blah blah. And I was a happy person, but there's our sexuality is a big part of who we are, right?
yeah,
And if there is in any sense a little piece of you that you are not allowed, then you should question, right? So I was happy. I was happy with the things that I was showing to others. I wasn't happy with this part of me that I wasn't showing others. So I lived a happy life, but I kind of ignored part of me. So yeah,
yeah. And I think the unhappiness part of like not living in your own truth usually comes like much later in life, maybe when you're on your deathbed and then you look back and you realize you didn't live your truth. I think that's when it would hit hard, maybe earlier, and depending on your life experiences, but it will happen like in a way or another one day. But yeah, like it's hard sometimes to really know that you're unhappy sometimes, because that's what you're used to. This is how you grew up. So you just go through the motions. You're happy. You have your set of beliefs, of familiar beliefs. But as you said, like if we don't question the parts that don't feel very natural to us, then we will only know when it's too late.
yeah, I agree.
And yeah, so basically, you had always communities, whether before the Christian community and now the queer community. What role did community, or sometimes maybe the loss of it, play in your coming out journey?
Um, Community, if we talk about the Christian community before talking about the LGBT community, it was good and it was bad. It was good because I built a really strong network of people that if you're part of any community, you feel included, you feel safe, you feel like you can run away to the people, and then no matter what's happening with you, you feel like there was someone to ready to listen to you. So so it was good at the beginning, and then I think that the biggest part where I struggled to leave and to go on the opposite way, it was because I already had built this massive community. And because of the work I was doing, people used to look at me and say, oh, you're very good Christian. It's like a hero, you're doing traveling, you're doing volunteering work, you're doing this and that. And then people started to put a lot of like labels that I never liked the labels. Um, but you have this group, massive group of people who will start to follow you. Imagine you are an influencer and then have a group of like an audience that follows you, and then suddenly you do something completely different, and people start like, what happened to you? It's not you anymore. So it was good because I did have this community. What happened is when I decided to come out, I saw the bad side, which when I started slowly posting on Instagram and social media, about going to Pride, about hanging out with gay friends. When I decided to post, I was already ready for any outcome. So I wasn't doing this like naive. And that's when I started to see who was in my life. I actually wanted, and sometimes I keep posting it because my followers from that time is still, just leave my Instagram, leave my life, don't send messages anymore. And I know who left or who didn't left, not because I'm paranoid about this, but always had Instagram very like close to friends. I never had it like open to public, so I'm not any influencer or anything. So when I start doing this, I had received several messages like, "What are you doing? Why are you in a pride?" The parade, or people sending sad emojis crying while I
Oh,
was
wow.
happy. And that I was like, okay, now I understand. Uh, so majority did leave, and it was quite sad. Yeah, but as I said now, just I was ready for it. When I decided, um, I was already at the time living like, well, I'm ready for it. And who stays, stays. And with these people who stays, then they are my community. And luckily, I do have Christian friends who stayed. It was the minority. It was like here and there you find one, but I really appreciate them. And I say this kind of things to them. I make sure I express this kind of things to them. It's really important. Now, for me, so you have like this experience which like changed completely. But I was ready to, uh, like now I have like a massive community in the LGBT, and there is so many people with different views, with like a very, the LGBT is a very diverse community. And
Exactly.
when you have people that is not only like you, it's really where you grow. Yeah, even though I'm telling here, oh yeah, no, I have the LGBT community, but it's so diverse and keeps growing, and we keep learning. You keep like, okay, if you like this, okay, like you need to tell me, the correct name and pronouns, and we have to learn because this, if it's something's different than you, that's where we grow. And I'm very happy with the LGBT community. I have lots of friends in London. I have lots of friends around the world. It's a very supportive community. So, it's hard to say is community, good or bad. It depends on what kind of community. When you're defending something, it's going to be good for you. If you change your view, you need to be ready to move on and find your group and find your community. But most importantly is how you feel from the inside.
Exactly, yeah. So even if you lose, like even if you're with your coming out, you lose a community, then first of all, it's almost never that you lose everyone, but yes, the majority, but you will always find a new community and maybe even a better community because it will align with who you are.
Yes. Yeah. I never felt alone. Like even though I had massive changes in my life, and I did have a lot of people who kind of like started to not come up to me anymore, I never felt alone. And so that's why it doesn't matter the decisions that you're gonna take. It might change, friends, it might change, but it's the way you feel from the inside, it will reflect from the outside. Never felt lonely, and I was never lonely because then suddenly other people started to appear in my life, lovely people. So you know, is yeah, is a
Yeah.
reflection. Word is a reflection of you.
Exactly, yeah. Like, and if you're being more honest and more truthful to yourself, then life, whether if you're religious or you believe in the universe or whatever, then you will either manifest better people into your life, or yeah, like life will bless you with like a better community because as a reward for being true and honest to yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
And now, like, we're talking about a lot about beliefs and so on. Now that you're engaged and living as your authentic self, how now, like, do you define spirituality or connection today? Like, how is your belief system in that regard now?
Yeah. My views changed quite a lot with time. I do feel that I'm still spiritual in some ways, but I think, generally speaking, that all human beings call the same God, just a different name.
Yeah,
And this God doesn't have shape, doesn't have agenda, doesn't have our tiny brains, and this for me, this is an energy, or the way you want to call God, or you want to call it something else, live inside of us, you know, and to so manifesting my authentic self is also being spiritual to me. If we have good things to share, um, these good things are spirituality. So yeah, so that's the way I feel and I see the world right now. And that's when I also like mentioned previously how religion has to do with interpretation, right? Because if there is a God, there is no a God. There's an energy, is there something else, is science, is like quantum physics, like, I think people just telling different names. But I think everything is just inside of you. And for me, this is spirituality nowadays.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, you can still believe in God and, be queer. So it's not that religion, any kind of religion, it's not that it's the enemy for queer people, but it's just the way we interpret it, or humans interpret it can be very limiting sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. In any sense, in any area of the society.
Yeah, exactly. Anything that you interpret in a limited way, it will cause a problem at some point for maybe not for you, but for somebody for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, now like that you kind of went through this transformation in your life, and it's a massive transformation. If you could go back to your younger self, like maybe the version of you that just started with the NGO, what would you tell her about love and self-worth?
Yeah. I think it's a bit cliche what I'm gonna say, but
That's
it's
totally
what I
fine.
think. I would definitely tell Katia there are different ways to love and to be loved. Yeah.
Wow.
And when there is an agreement between two people or more people in the way they want to love each other, not a single person has the right to judge the way this should happen. Yeah. So for me, it's like don't judge others. I would say don't judge others and don't let anyone judge you or try to define what love looks like for you. So I think,
Exactly.
yeah, but it's cliche. It's not like new, but I think that's it. For me, it's like very simple thing that sometimes we take it for granted and just like you want to elaborate, but don't judge, don't
Um,
don't don't interfere in what the people want to do, and you have to go with what feels right for you.
yeah, I mean, cliches became cliches for a reason, right?
Correct.
Because they are right. Um, and yeah, so and basically like if you're religious and listening to this, like true believing in God or the true God, let's say, wouldn't judge, wouldn't like, I mean, since you are God's creation, we're all God's creation in a way, if you're religious, then like if you are you know, God's creation and God must love you no matter how you are. And just looking at everything in the world, including nature and everything, everything is very, very diverse. It cannot be that just one certain character trait could be like an outlier because everything, if you look, everything is um, very different. Everything, you have many outliers to the point where even outliers become something standard. So, yeah, thank you very much, Katia, for being
Thank
here.
you.
That was really amazing and very inspirational. And yeah, like because I never like talked this closely to somebody who was like in a religious community and then came out of it. And yeah, the way like it talked in details about all these transformations that happened and how you view life now and everything. So thank you again, Katya.
Well, I appreciate the time. I think like openly to the world, this is the first time I'm actually sharing this much. I put myself available to whoever wants to reach out. But yeah, I think it's really important for us to question, to, like to share our own experiences. Like you only change your opinions about something when you like listening, when you read, when you watch, when you like leave different things. So yeah, I really appreciate that there is a space for this. So I really appreciate your invite.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I will add your Instagram just in case somebody maybe got really inspired and maybe needs a little push. And then maybe Katya will be there to show some support. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening to Ghosted, Gagged, and Gay. Remember, if you have a story and you want to tell it and share it with the world, inspire others, then or just make them laugh sometimes, or maybe make us cry, then you can book an interview with me, and I would be happy to help you share your story. Thank you very much, everyone, and yeah, until then, remember to be kind to yourself and to others, and let's keep everything queer.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.